When I was a student at university studying geology, in our first year, we went on a field trip to do our first geological dig. And we went to a quarry in Oxford, and we were given the task to write a report on kind of what fossils we found and why they were there and what sort of environment they must have lived in. But before we did that, we had to collect all our samples and analyse them. So on the bus over, I chose my tools for my toolkit, and I decided to opt for a geological hammer so I could smash up the rocks and collect my samples, and obviously a trusty notebook so I could write down all my information. And then we would collect all our samples and we took them back to our lab so we could analyse them a little bit further in order to write our report. And to analyse them, we used three main things. So first, we would kind of do line drawings and descriptions and measurements so we could kind of see exactly what information the fossil was giving us. We would measure it to see exactly how big it was and compared to other ones. And we would do line drawings, so these are really simple diagrams to show us exactly the key features and elements of the fossil. And descriptions as well. We would try and describe everything we could about the fossil in order to get the maximum amount of information. The second thing we did was compare. So we would look at indexes on the internet to kind of look at sample fossils that would be like the key ones that experts would use in order to define certain species. And we'd also compare with one another. We would meet up in small groups and show each other what we'd found in order to kind of get a bit of a better idea of the average composite of what we'd found was. And the third thing we did was ask an expert. I remember I found loads of fossils that were all smashed up and crushed and had strange marks on, and I couldn't work out what had happened to them. And one of my friends had found a small rock with a little black mark on, and we were really confused by this, and we decided to take it to our professor, who then told us that this was an alligator tooth that had kind of decayed and eroded and just become a little black mark on a rock. And it was only then that the professor had told us that we'd worked out that there were shells living alongside alligators, and that it was likely that the alligators had predated on these shells and crushed them up in its strong jaws. And it was only that we found this small tooth that we discovered this major thing that completely changed our understanding of the environment and the situation. And it was the information that the professor gave us, the expert gave us, that unlocked this piece of information. So with all our analysis, we could then write our report and say exactly what had gone on in the environment that all the fossils had lived in when they were alive. And that's what we're going to do. But before that, we've chosen our tools, we've carried out our excavation, and we now need to analyse our information.